Have you ever just wished you could turn the volume down on the entire world? Well, for some people, that's not just a passing thought. It's a desperate daily need. Today, we are diving deep into a condition called hyperacusis, where normal, everyday sounds can become overwhelmingly and sometimes even painfully loud.
When you read a definition like that, abnormal acuteness of the sense of hearing, it almost sounds like a superpower, right? But the reality is, this isn't about having super hearing. It's a neurological condition that can make just getting through the day incredibly difficult.
And that really is the million-dollar question we're going to explore. What's going on here? It's not about the ears simply being too good. Nope, it's something way more complex happening deep inside the brain. So let's get into the science of it. First things first, let's really try to understand what it's like to live with this. I mean, what does it actually feel like when the sound of dishes clanking or a car door shutting becomes a source of genuine distress? Yeah, and we're not talking about a minor annoyance here. This is a level of sound sensitivity that can seriously get in the way of your social life, your job, pretty much all your daily activities. To put it in perspective, for some people, a quiet conversation, we're talking just 50 decibels, can feel uncomfortably loud. Now, you might be thinking this is some incredibly rare condition, but get this. Hyperacusis affects an estimated 8 to 9% of the general population. It's not some obscure phenomenon. It's a pretty significant health issue that's basically hiding in plain sight, or I guess in plain sound. Okay, so you might have heard of a similar sounding condition called loudness recruitment, but it is super important to know they are not the same thing. Recruitment is directly tied to hearing loss. It's this weird compression of the ear's dynamic range. Hyperacusis, on the other hand, is all about sound tolerance, and it can affect people who have perfectly normal hearing. So we have a handle on what it is, but the big question remains, why does it happen? Let's peel back the layers and take a look at what's actually going on inside the brain to cause this kind of auditory overload. What's really fascinating is that hyperacusis isn't just one single experience. Researchers have actually broken it down into 4 main subtypes: loudness, annoyance, fear, and pain. Loudness is the most common, for sure, but they can all overlap. So one person might just find sounds way too loud, while for someone else, it triggers intense fear or even real physical pain. So what's the leading theory behind all this? Well, think of your brain as having its own internal volume knob. If the signal coming from the ears gets even a little bit weaker, maybe from some subtle hearing damage or even from avoiding sound, the brain might try to overcompensate. It cranks up its own amplifier, this central auditory gain, making every sound that comes in feel incredibly loud. And in its most severe, most debilitating form, you get something called noxacacusis. This is pain hyperacusis. And here, the line between hearing a sound and feeling physical pain just completely vanishes. Sounds don't just feel loud, they actually physically hurt. So how on earth can sound cause pain? Well, scientists are basically chasing down 3 main leads. The pain could be coming from nerves in the middle ear or from special fibers in the inner ear that are basically screaming, "tissue damage." Or, and this is wild, the pain might be generated entirely within the brain itself, like a kind of faulty, hyperactive neural circuit. One of the key things to understand about hyperacusis is that it almost never shows up alone. It's often connected to other conditions, which really shows you just how deeply our hearing is wired into our overall health. And the connection with tinnitus is just staggering. A whopping 85% of people with hyperacusis also have tinnitus, that ringing in the ears. And it goes both ways. This massive overlap suggests they might be 2 sides of the same coin, sharing some common glitch in the brain's auditory system. And the connections don't stop there. Hyperacusis pops up frequently alongside a whole range of other conditions. We're talking everything from genetic disorders like Williams syndrome and developmental conditions like autism to neurological issues like Bell's palsy, PTSD, and even Lyme disease. It just goes to show you that sound sensitivity is a symptom tied to the entire nervous system. Now, to really understand the profound link between our mental state and a physical condition like hyperacusis, there's this incredible story from an 11th century physician named Avicenna that I have to share. His experiment was brilliantly simple. He took 2 identical lambs, kept them in identical cages, fed them the same food, with one critical difference. One of the lambs was put in a spot where it could see a caged wolf nearby. And the result was chilling. The lamb that lived in a constant state of fear just from seeing the wolf eventually got sick and died, even though the wolf never laid a paw on it. Meanwhile, the calm lamb was perfectly fine. It's this powerful, ancient lesson that shows how non-physical stress, like the fear and anxiety tied to hyperacusis, can have devastating physical effects.
Okay, so we've explored the problem from a bunch of different angles. But now for the important part. What can actually be done about it? The good news is that hyperacusis is manageable. So let's talk about the pathways to getting some relief.
The real key is knowing there isn't one single magic bullet. It's all about a team effort, a multifactorial approach. So while there are some medical and surgical options out there, the real heavy hitters, the cornerstones of management, are psychological and audiological. Things like cognitive behavioral therapy can help